Yeah, you're making me start this time, Craig. I'm not used to that, man. I need you to start us. Can you do that for us?
Welcome to the show.
All right, man.
How's that? Is that good enough for you?
Yes, sir. For another edition of Through a Therapist's Eyes, where we invite you to see the world through the lens of a mental health and substance abuse therapist. You are...
Brett Graves.
See, the person that's going to be with us tonight actually convinced me. She actually gave me some feedback that said, he needs to say his name. You remember that? That was probably like 6 months ago.
I don't remember.
It's true.
No. Right.
And
I'll start doing that.
And I am Chris Gazdick, where we invite you to see the world through the lens, which I already said. The goal is not to create... man, now I'm all jacked up. Can we start over?
Really?
No. No. That's why I like the original openings, man. It's pretty cool. Anyway, this is not the delivery of therapy services in any way. We are looking to create a window into the lens of a therapist's eyes. Feedback and discussion on the website through therapisteyes.com. The human emotional experience. We got 3 people tonight that we're going to try to figure this thing out together. So I have alluded to that we have a guest with us tonight. Craig, I was doing show notes, and we fly by the seat of our pants. You know that, right? It's just like whatever happens, happening.
Yep, well, that's the way it is a lot of times.
I had a brain fart and just went and with a whim and was doing our show prep for tonight, which is all about managed care, the managed care environment.
We talked about that before, right?
We talked about before? A little bit. Once before we talked about kind of
how to find...
Yeah, how to access mental health services, okay. And so we're going deeper on the actual insurance side of it. In how it's paid for, how you search for benefits, just kind of all those types of things. People get terribly confused about their insurance benefits, and I did think we are rolling up on an election sometime soon. Did you know that?
That's a mental health issue right there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, dude, who better to do this with than our good old professional DW at the office? I mean, you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea.
All right, so before we bring her in, I gotta apologize, man. The audience gonna think we're a bunch of sickly bunch, man. You were hacking and heaving last show.
Right, I did have a little cold last time.
You feeling better?
I feel good now.
Dude, that was more than a cold.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it seemed like, probably was.
You were kind of boogered up for...
I'm not sure what it was. I didn't have a fever or anything, but it was just a nasty cough, and it was not fun.
Well, we're sitting here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and dude, I'm thinking it's like spring because I got daffodils coming up. Things must be blooming. I don't know what's out there, but it has absolutely crushed my allergies, man. Terrible, terrible time. So, as you apologized before, I'm going to have to apologize for hacking and coughing and all that through this show maybe too. Think we can bear with it?
Yeah, we'll get through it.
It's funny, Lisa renamed. She woke up this morning and while she looked at me, she's like, I've renamed our family. We're the hackers.
The hackers.
The hackers.
I always think about computer hackers when I hear that term, hackers.
Ah. Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's all about that today. So there'll be a lot of that. I'm sorry. We'll try to edit some of that out maybe if it's not too bad. I do apologize seriously. So welcome to Through a Therapist's Eyes. You are Miss DW, none and only fresh from Metrolina Psychotherapy Associates. Welcome to the show, man.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So you know a little bit about insurance companies and managed care and all of this stuff, I guess, because you do it every day.
Yes, I do.
I'll tell you, it's been awesome to watch you kind of get into doing that and stuff, DW. And I do publicly here. I'll say, I personally appreciate all that you do for what we got going on. I mean, dude, Craig, she keeps everything rocking and rolling, and it's just we don't have to worry about it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a choice, Mr. Graves. We got two different current events. So we're going to get a little political today, I guess.
Okay.
Because it is, managed care. And by the way, this is not from the get-go intended. I make jokes about that a little bit. We're not, kind of coordinated it a little bit with the elections and everything coming up. So I'm sure that can come up and all. But, we try to, DW, we try not to get Craig too rustled up because politics comes up. Sometimes he can get kind of wired and I don't know, man. He scares me.
We gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Politics is like reality TV. That's kind of what I liken it to.
It's true.
Reality television.
It's a lot of truth in that.
It's kind of
So
a soap opera, you know.
I got two current events. One of them is along the same lines as our topic today, and the other one is just not. So I thought we'd do the not current event real quick, and then do the like our event next show. So it's kind of up to you. I'm going to let you make the call. What says you?
I'm kind of confused on what you just said. One's not a current event. A current event is not a current event.
They're both current events. One is related to our show, but it's about, a little political. And the other one is just not political.
Oh, it doesn't matter to me.
We'll make a call.
We'll let DW decide. She's
All
our
right.
guest.
All right. Well, first, what's the title of the two political issues that we're discussing?
Oh, dear. One's about Trump. One's about video gaming.
Oh, let's do Trump.
Oh.
Why don't we just get it out and in the open?
Trump for 1,000.
She's like, yeah, we just get down and dirty in this one, Chris. That's fine. All right, well, let's see where we go. I was really kind of tuning this in. We're gonna probably, just because of time, Craig, if it's okay with you, skip the personal fun fact or whatever, because this article moved me a little bit. It bothered me, to be honest with you. I didn't know this happened. I've kind of just skimmed the article before we turned the mics on and stuff and checked it out. But
did you fact check the article? Because there's a lot of spin out there.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely, and that's totally qualified, because you're right. I'm not a researcher. I'm not going to dig and grime. I mean, I'm always looking around at these current events and stuff. Whenever something pops up, I mean, this is what people are talking about. People can fact check this out there, though. I'd be curious if anybody hears or sees this, please, do your email, contact them, do some posts or whatever to see what people say. But I was comfortable in the sense that this is actually from a UK publication concept, so it's not originating from our country.
Okay.
Right. And then the UK, I'm thinking, they're not gonna blasphemy or just blast out garbage. So I could see this happening. And it really makes me think of, if you guys in the show look back on domestic violence as the topic here, we had an amazingly courageous woman, Miss MJ Vest. Hello, MJ. She's a friend of the show. I think she still listens and such. Well, she very courageously shared her story with domestic violence, and one of the things I think that kind of got to you and I really is that she was never physically harmed to the point in her story, but her story was powerful. I mean, her story was amazing, and she spoke out and is doing a lot for that issue, by the way. Look her up online and support Victory Lifehouse is her program. So, man, I'm telling you, this article kind of shook me a little bit, given the truth of it and whatever is there to be found, but evidently, there was a decision made to change the definitions of domestic violence into sexual assault, which they are claiming in this article basically rolls everything back a half century in the way we looked at this issue, right? So the Trump administration quietly changed the definition of both domestic violence and sexual assault back in April, but evidently it's just recently surfaced. Now, I didn't know that we had, Department of Justice and whatever definitions of this, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to claim expertness in this at all, but it bothered me because of the way that this was changed. So the Trump Justice Department definition evidently only considers physical harm that constitutes a felony or misdemeanor to be domestic violence, meaning other forms of domestic violence such as psychological abuse, coercive control, or manipulation no longer fall under that department's definition. And that doesn't sit well with me if that's in fact the case. So evidently the Office on Violence Against Women, OVW, part of the Department of Justice, has amended its definition of sexual assault to also focus on criminal justice aspects. Like I said, I didn't even really realize these government agencies and entities were a part of defining it.
News to me too. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Do you have a thought?
Well, that's kind of bad, because if you've got males that are making the rules, for what is or isn't domestic violence, then we're in trouble because some men don't understand what it is or what are the rules of engagement should or shouldn't be. And if you've got men making the rules of what domestic violence is, that might not be good for us women.
True, but there may be women that are in these departments or whatever too. I mean, I have no idea. Matter of fact, I'd be willing to lay a line bet down that there is, but the end result of a definition change, I don't know what the end result of that actually is. By the way,
that means that a lot of people are gonna get away with a lot of things that aren't appropriate. It's basically my take as a female.
I'm fearful. I don't know. The academic who has worked in frontline roles in domestic violence sector used to be a domestic abuse officer for the police argued the Trump administration's decision turned the clock back 50 years. So it was massively surprised, she says, and really shocked. She says, it's quite scary how quietly it happened. It's a massive step backwards. We have literally gone back to the 70s. We have worked so hard since the 60s and 70s to get domestic abuse and sexual violence understood as being about more than physical violence. Changing the definition to take it back to being about physical harm completely undermines what domestic abuse is about. So narrowing the definition will stop victims being able to access the services they need. Prosecutions for domestic and sexual violence will also fall because they are limiting it to the most severe forms of abuse, so fewer victims are likely to come forward and seek help. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this, but this doesn't sound great. Another part of the article, wherever you live, if you've experienced domestic abuse or listened to those who have, you know all too well that physical violence is never the whole picture, and many survivors tell us that the emotional and psychological abuse takes much longer to recover from. And like I said, I'm not going to berate this. I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's just a current event, that I saw, and it makes me think of our show.
Well, here's a question, and it's an honest question. I'm not for or against changing the definitions of those things. But if I'm mentally or emotionally abusive, what are the legal ramifications of that? I mean, can I call the cops and say Chris is being physically emotional, or not physically, he's being mentally abusive to me?
Yep.
I want to have him arrested. I mean, what is that a thing?
Well, I think that there's statutes and whatnot for peace orders and peace bonds. Every state's got their thing with the magistrate, and there's a process to go through. I mean, you've got to demonstrate that there is of concern for your safety, and sometimes I'm sure the systems are abused, and this type of thing. So, a magistrate or a competent judge of a jurisdiction is going to make that call on a peace bond and a peace order. But then when you move that further to criminal charges, I would imagine that's kind of more where you get, the implications. I mean, it's a legal definition. So basically, you can, coerce and physically and emotionally domineer over a person and not be convicted of a crime because you haven't hit them.
Right. I didn't think it broke the law until you actually laid hands on somebody. And I'm curious as to how you can sexually assault somebody without touching them.
You can't.
Yeah, I guess.
You can't.
Well, no, actually, I would argue there's a lot of sexual assault that well, I mean, I guess you'd have to touch them to your point, but you could probably threaten. I mean, you can coerce with toys and actions and activities, and if you expose yourself in public, I mean, that's sexually inappropriate.
Yeah, that's
so there's probably some
indecent exposure or whatever that thing is. But it seems like I can call you every name in the book, but then if this right here is assault. I just touched Chris's arm with my index finger.
Ow, man!
So that's I wonder what. I just don't know what the ramifications of that would be. I mean, and I honestly don't know. I'm not saying
and I'm not sure
saying
either.
It's a great idea because I have no idea. And that does the article go into that?
No, not that I already took it down.
We might need to investigate that.
Well, obviously there's a lot more to this, and I'm not, I just saw it and it made me think of our show, and a lot of times with these current events, what I'm mainly purposeful about is just getting people think about it, kind of keep things on the radar screen, because my point with these current events whenever they come up is, dude, this stuff is all around us. Mental health and substance abuse impact is it's just happening all the time, and people are thinking about it. But then you hear people mention mental health as such a mystery and it's taboo and nobody wants to mention it, but they're talking about it. is kind of the point, like all the time.
Right.
And it's in our statutes, it's in our government, it's in our houses, it's in our neighborhoods, it's in our schools. It's it's a big part of life.
Yes. Yes.
All right, well, let's go on and talk about. Now, I'm going to try to temper myself, DW. You pinch me or do something to calm me down if I get too upset towards the end of this, because I can, Craig, get a little bit frustrated with the managed care system.
Well, we have to live with that, and we have to have health care and insurance, and somebody's got to pay for it when we get hurt. But now I can remember when they paid 100% for coverage, and I'll never forget a day I was at work and they had
at Metrolina
or when I was employed elsewhere. And they came out with a new insurance company, and one of the assistant manager hollered out, "You realize they're only paying 80% of the coverage now." Well, we had been used to 100, and that, like, you would have thought she'd set a bomb off in the middle of the office. Everybody went berserk because we weren't getting the coverage that we were paying. At the time we were paying for. We were like, okay, now they're downscaling it. So managed care has come a long way.
Changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yes, it's changed drastically. Some policies don't pay but 70% down. And you're thinking, how can they do that? But they can, because it's on the back of your card that's saying that this card does not represent guarantee payment.
It's written
on the back of the insurance card. And I see that a lot. And I had my own experience calling about coverage, and they said, "Did you understand the disclaimer?" And I joke about it now, but I said it. "You mean because you're taking money out of my paycheck weekly, that don't necessarily mean that you're going to pay this claim?" I said, "That's the disclaimer that I understand."
Right.
And they said they had
How'd
never
they respond.
They said, "I've never heard it quite put that way." I said, "Well, that's what it is."
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it is remarkable. And I guess real quick too, I mean, to qualify your thoughts, DW, I didn't really probably give you a proper introduction. I apologize for that. But I think that it's fair to say that, you have been engrossed in the managed care management, medical billing, dealing with CPT codes and calling insurance companies. Kind of recently, she's kind of got a little bit more hands, I'll say, quote unquote, dirty with, credentialing a little bit, and I think your knowledge has increased with that. She's problem solving people's claims constantly throughout our billing process. I mean, so over the course of the last 10 years, I mean, I personally can vouch for, the fact that because she does it day in and day out, she's got a really good perspective, which is why I asked you to come on the show. Prior to 10 years ago, did you do much with this, really, or is it, yeah?
Not at all. So. Not at all. I'm grateful for the privilege that you allowed me to experience it and go through the knowledge. It made me study more to be qualified to even be in the position I'm in now.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that I had enough work ethic to search and seek and find and study on my own, or else I couldn't have sold myself.
True that. So let's start, Craig. Do you know, sir? I just love putting him on the spot, DW.
Oh, Lord.
He does me that way, too, though. We do it back and forth. You know what your benefit structure is? You know how your plan is and which product line is?
Not 100%. No, I don't.
What do you understand about your benefit structure?
I don't know what my deductible is, stuff like that. I need to go back and refresh my memory. So my primary employer, if you don't if you don't go in and fill that thing out or whatever, in October it just defaults to what you had the year before.
I think that's right. Yeah,
yeah, it is right. And that's the point I'm making, is I've just kind of defaulted over the last couple of years and haven't looked at it. So I'd have to go back and refresh.
Have a good eval of it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at that. But I've been satisfied with my benefits, and to be honest with you, I don't go to the doctor hardly at all.
Right.
So very, very rarely.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I have a general idea. I really don't even know my exact reality either. I mean, something like $40 went up to $60 on an office visit. I know I don't have a deductible per se. We have a HSA or no, not an HSA, a flex account, which kind of kicks in, in some ways. So, I mean, but I sitting here couldn't tell you exactly what all of my product line is either. Yeah. I mean, it presents people at a disadvantage when they come to our office, though.
Yeah, my primary doctor visits are covered. There's no deductible there. But I did have a double hernia fixed in 2017, and I had quite a big deductible I had to pay out of pocket for that.
But I won't ask you, DW, because of more of interest in time and whatnot. But I mean, like I say, I mean, how do you have the experience that people just do not know what they're looking at when they come for a service?
They have absolute no clue. I made the comment to one of the patients who's in the healthcare field. I said, I do more telling or teaching a client what their coverage is. I give them more information than I probably should when I learn or call about their coverage that prepares them more for what's going on. A lot of them don't know what their deductible is. They have no idea. They don't know that because they have single coverage that they have to pay the deductible for the family, and they'll go, oh, I only have single coverage, I shouldn't have to pay a family deductible. I said, but that's designed in the plan for you to continue to keep paying until you meet the family deductible before you even get to an 80-20 split or 100% coverage.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing.
And that's with simple insurance. We ain't even talking about how people combine with Medicare and then an insurance policy and how we do co-billing or
co-insurance or billing the secondary billing.
It's like you really have to go to school to know what the heck you're doing for years,
man.
You
do. And some people who have two insurance coverages think that the second one's going to pay. If it's not a supplement, then that's not going to happen because you have to establish which one's primary and secondary. And the insurance companies, the two of them, determine which one's primary and which one's secondary, which is called coordination of benefits. And a lot of people don't do that. They say, I have two insurance. I said, well, which one's primary? And they have no idea. And when I call and ask them, do they know that they have other coverage, then that sends up a red flag into the insurance.
Is it fair to say that we have had situations like that you just described, that literally, Craig, the insurance company A is arguing with insurance company B, trying to make insurance company B pay when insurance company B is trying to make insurance company A pay? And they have done that with us trying to get a reimbursement for what's the longest? What's the shortest? For 6, 7, 8 months
back after they've made a payment.
Right?
So why do people have two insurance companies?
Well, you get a plan, your wife has a plan, whatnot, and so you just kind of think, well, I'll just double up and have great coverage. Or whatever somebody might be thinking.
Right. They're thinking that I won't have to pay the bill, but that's not true. When you have two insurances that are regular insurance and not a supplement, you have to submit the front and backs to both of those cards and send both of the information for them to coordinate the benefit.
And see, the part of this is like, why are we talking about this on a mental health show? Because it greatly impacts mental health treatment. Craig, I mean, I don't know where your brain is already, but mine's already a little bit fried just listening to her. It's so clear to her. But I could follow because I have been a clinician that has had to deal with the ins and outs and the back scenes of this being a founder. But I would argue a lot of clinicians that are sitting in the office with their patients do not have any idea how to explain some of this to their actual people. And so everyone's confused about it and frustrated. And they say, you know what? I just ain't going to engage this treatment then. And that's where we have a major problem.
So it's easier to walk away than to deal with it.
I ain't dealing with this stuff, man. You kidding me? I mean, they hit me for this bill and that bill, and I don't know what. So, yeah.
If you go back to that other question, I understand, when I was married, my insurance wasn't as good or affordable as my wife's. Mm-hmm. So she stayed on her plan, and if I went on her plan, it made more sense for us to be separate. And she took the kids because it made more sense for her to have the kids on her plan. But when there was no question about who paid what. I mean, if I went to the doctor, I used my plan. She went to the doctor, she used her plan. So how's that different when it comes to, so I guess my question is, why is there two?
The situation she just described gets really, really tricky and really, really hairy. And to answer your question, I think you would have made a decision with your ex-wife to have both plans. And why? Again,
but I wasn't covering hers; she wasn't covering mine.
But one of you would cover the other, and you'd have two plans that way.
So
maybe
if
the
you
person
came
would,
in together. Is what you talking about?
Yeah, no. You just say I'm gonna keep her plan, and buy my own plan extra. So I got like extra insurance.
Why would you need extra insurance?
Good question. But people might think
that. They're trying to avoid paying money out of their pocket. But that doesn't work because sometimes that doesn't work because the benefits aren't coordinated. When we talk about the benefits being coordinated, each insurance has to understand what the other one plan is. And then they decide between the two of them which one's primary and which one's secondary. But you still may have, let's say the first plan pays 80%. Well, the 20%, you're thinking, oh, that's not a lot. They'll pay that. But let's say that plan has a $1,000 deductible. Well, every claim that goes there until they reach that $1,000 deductible won't be paid. So that
you're on the hook for the grand first.
Right. You're on the hook until that deductible is met.
And these plans and product lines are drawn out to be tricky that way. And so that the insurance company is kind of getting you kind of to hook into, some of the costs. And that's not all bad. So we're managing costs is what the part of the directive is. And so, if we didn't have management of these costs, some would argue that they just balloon out out of the roof and people would be frustrated that way. Let me go through real quick on some basics, because you've heard some words in and out, and I want to make sure that we know what we're talking about. So a copay, for instance, is you're on the hook for a certain percentage of the service cost. A deductible is you have to pay a certain amount off the top before insurance pays anything. Co-insurance is another thing like copays. Do they still have co-insurances around, or is that gone away?
Yes, they do.
It does.
Yeah.
Same thing sort of as a copay. You got to go along with a certain amount to pay what the insurance is going to pay. Pre-authorization, you want to call and get things set up before you go to a service to get them pre-authorized. A lot of people don't understand that you have to actually get stuff pre-authorized. You have health savings accounts. You've heard people talk about that. Basically, your employer puts money into this account, and you also have flex spending accounts where you contribute and your employer contributes. Maybe for both of them, the big difference between these accounts that you use to cover your copays and deductibles is that FSAs will not carry over for the next year, and they also end or die if you leave. Health savings accounts kind of travel with you or stay in basically a bank has the money in there, and you tap it when you use medical benefits, and they also build year to year if you're like you, Craig, that don't use your benefits. That's some basics. That's some real basics.
That's basics.
Right. And again, you heard DW talking about some of the complicated things on the back end that really you need a medical biller to do and deal with.
And that's DW for you, right?
Yes, sir. I said, somebody asked me a question. I said, go see DW. I don't know. No, actually, I think I'm pretty good at coaching my people through.
Right. He is really good to coach them through. But the thing is, you need to be clear. Less is more, because some people get confused when you start talking. Just like the co-insurance, that's usually the insurance company has already paid their portion, and then you pay at the end. And in some situations, you have a copay and you have a co-insurance and the insurance in the middle, and that comes into play when I go to the dentist. I know I'm going to pay them a copay, and then after they run the claim through, I still owe money, which is called co-insurance. So it's interesting.
Craig, I have a concern.
What's that?
I have a concern, Craig.
Okay, let's hear it.
I haven't been able to complain about anything yet, and we're running on time, man. I got a lot of thoughts to drive in here, and I'm getting worried. And I'll be curious what you see about them, DW, and see what you think, man. But I wanted to do this real quick too, just as far as understanding. Actually, this show was generated in my brain a long time ago for a specific piece of explanation in prescription drugs. It's just as a bit of a service to help people kind of understand how this works with something called Good RX. Now, we don't deal with that a lot in our office, DW. Right?
No, because we don't have anybody writing scripts.
Right.
But there is a gentleman that drops off those free cards.
He does, yes, and we put him out.
Yes.
That's where I was like, okay, what is this? And I looked into it a few years ago. You ever hear of Good RX, Craig?
I have not.
You know, it's something that people need to know about. Man, it drives me nuts that people don't know about this because you hear people talking about how expensive prescription drug costs are. Well, this is basically, do you know how it works, DW? Have you really ever dug into that?
Yes.
You have? Okay, you correct me if I'm wrong then, because the way I understand it is, it's basically, Craig, like a coupon program, right? If you go to the store, to the pharmacy, and you try to get your prescription, they look at you and say, oh, Effexor, that's a tough one. That's going to be $535 for your month's prescription. Holy cow. Well, you pull up literally this app on your phone, Good RX, and you type in that medication, and they give you a coupon code. You just literally scan it in right there, standing there at the pharmacy, and that, what did I say, $523 prescription cost for that month goes down to $119.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right?
Right.
I've literally experienced this. I'm like, why would anybody pay $550 when I can sit here and get an app and pop a SKU number on their little machine? They had it like skewed up like a daggum milk carton. Beep. Mm-hmm. And it dropped $400, or, you know, and that's a large spread. So, but even if you got a $70 prescription and you use this, I mean, you can get it down to like 22 or even 7. Like does that sound kind of?
Yeah, that's what that's for. Is to bring it down. I tried to use it versus using my own prescription drug plan on my health insurance, and it's just it was a significant savings. That's what it's set up for. A lot of people that maybe have a prescription that's really expensive
And
can
there's no
benefit
limit
from
to how many times you can use it?
There's
or
no
anything
limit
like
to how many times you can
No,
use it.
man.
No.
Nobody knows
That
about
should
this.
be the biggest news in the country.
I know. And you have other ones like Script Cycle and Blink Health. I just got that on Google. I've never heard of those before, but on our show notes, oh dear. On our show notes, we do have a goodrx.com link that you'll put on there, and you can click on there and kind of figure this stuff out, because that right there is a great resource, to say the least.
Sounds like it.
Yes.
How about, Craig, we take a break and we'll come back and have maybe even have a little bitch session, huh?
I have no doubts.
I figured we'd highlight, Craig, I can't even talk. Metrolina Psychotherapy. What are they?
Associates.
I mean, yes, but they're our sponsoring agency. Jeez,
Yeah, okay.
Oh my.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Where are they located, DW?
At 547 Holland Street, Suite A, Mount Holly, North Carolina, 280.
28120. That's a new address, isn't it?
Yes.
And Craig, you're good with phone numbers.
I don't know the phone number.
704-461-8253.
Looking to do mental health and substance abuse therapy with you.
Give a call and talk to DW.
All right, so we're gonna hit concerns is what I want to call it, and then I'm trying to think of what time we've got left, and I think what I want to do is kind of just list out the things that I kind of brainstormed and list as managed care concerns that I see, and then get your all's reactions and highlight any of them that are important. And then I really kind of want to lead into what my belief on all this is, and kind of what I have seen as a provider and as an involved person in the industry that we are all so painfully concerned about in this country, particularly on election cycles. When you hear people talking about healthcare, it is a primary issue in our nation. Does that seem like a good way to go through?
Yeah. Let's get after that.
Let me just hit hard real quick through. See what sticks out. These are just, I guess, kind of my ramblings on frustrations, if you want to say, or concerns that exist out there. Just things like bothersome paperwork, man. Every 3 months, Craig, I got to go do credentialing stuff and make sure my address is right because the Medicare centers of the country have decided that we need to be confirming that because we have so much change and transition with addresses. But, how many times I've actually had to make a change that way?
Once.
Exactly. Well, maybe a couple because I've had a career more than agencies but here. But we'll say once in 10 years, literally, medical group lawsuits. OMG. I forgot. I got show notes on this. I got to pause on this one because this blew my mind. We have had managed care companies running the health insurance. Your and I's adult life, I think yours as well. You remember a time when insurance companies were new? I know you got me by a couple of years anyway. We're going to talk about it. But do you remember before we had insurance companies?
No.
Yeah. So they've been running the show since day one. And for better or worse, a lot of people are happy with it. That's what we know runs our healthcare industry.
Who's happy with it?
Well, you're happy with your benefit structure. I'm happy with mine. I mean, it's not terrible. But, I don't even know what it was like before that. So we're really blinded. But there are a lot of people happy with their health insurance programs. That's true. I mean, they say that, and I think that's true. There's a lot of things we can improve, though, for sure. Okay? But my point here is we've got a new issue that's developing with medical groups. Okay? And that's something that is basically, insurance companies have been running the show in a lot of ways. And providers have gathered together and said, hey, hold on, wait a minute. We got unions in our history of our country, and we want to kind of form a union, kind of, is what medical groups are. A bunch of clinicians getting together to say, we're going to form a big conglomerate to be able to manage the managed care companies trying to manage us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of that is then you are beginning to see people getting too big, man, and having implications to that bigness be a problem. I cannot believe we have got to the point where medical groups in this country, specifically these articles I have linked on here in Virginia, they've taken people to court that cannot pay their medical bills. You get an MRI, you can't afford it, and you're on the hook for $15 large, and you just can't pay it, and then you get sick, and you get $4,000 or $5,000 more tagged onto your bill, and I'm a part of the medical group. They are taking people to a judge, man. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
No, I haven't heard of that.
No.
It's a thing. It's a thing, and interestingly enough, on the Google search, it seems that the articles that I saw came out in Virginia in September 19-ish. Well, September-ish 2019. And then in October-ish somewhere, 2019, they began to stop the practice. They began to back off of this because of the backlash. But somewhere I was reading about this is not specific to Virginia. Big medical groups are doing this across the country evidently in multiple locations with people like Johns Hopkins Hospital and, big name folks taking people to court because they can't or won't or whatever with their medical bills. I just couldn't believe it. I don't know. Am I ranting?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, we've got providers who have a practice that are making a living. And if we go back as far as them paying for med school and providing for their families, there's no backup. When they don't get paid, there's no backup.
Believe me, I want paid, yeah.
I mean, and when you realize that there's no backup unless you work and we get paid and people try to get the co-pays and the deductibles and the co-insurances and the deductibles, when we ask them for the payment, that gets a little touchy because they know they need the service, but how many of them are out here that can really afford to do that? Mm-hmm. But then on the other hand, everybody's got to go home and everybody's got to eat. So I get it from both perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, what I tell people.
That's an interesting point. I mean, Chris, what if I came into your office, man, and ran up a $15,000 bill in therapy, and then I said, you know what, I can't pay you, dude, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what would you do then?
I'll send you collections.
That's basically the same thing, right? I mean.
No, very different.
How is it different?
Because you're not going to jail.
Okay.
You're not facing a judge. I am not sending you.
If I go to collections, do you get paid? That's what I'm asking.
Wait a minute. It's sort of. It's complicated. It's a complicated issue, but largely yes. You go to collections, you're affected with your credit, and it's an imposing kind of thing. I kind of hate doing that, but listen. Wait a minute. That is very, very different than sending somebody panic-stricken to a courtroom with a judge and the whole 9 yards of what you have to do in an appearance of court. I think that's wrong.
Well, I was just asking the question,
right?
You know, if I owed you $15,000 for mental health services, you know, what would be the remedy for you?
Yeah, and what I tell people honestly when I deal with this in sessions, because we deal with this in therapy, right? It's not a line of BS either. I really mean it. I'll tell them, you know what, the finances of this and this bill. I know a $350 bill is big and it's important because it's a business, but by no means is it the most important thing to me. So I'll tell people, you know, I'll work with you on managing this as long as you're kind of chipping away at it and kind of working on the bill. You know, don't worry so much about it. I mean, even if you extend it out for a period of time, you pay, you know, $5 a session or $20 a session. As long as we're managing it and you know that it's there, don't sweat it too bad. But when you split and you owe $735, then and you refuse to pay after we bill you and work with it, you know, and try to give good grace, then you do. You take a hit on credit, and you have to process that with appropriate means towards affecting people's credit lines and such. And that's a whole process that I don't want to go into. But ultimately, yeah, we get a relationship with a credit company, and we get paid, you know, by payments and deals that you work with that. But yeah, I mean, to take people to court it just blows my mind a little bit.
What are your thoughts, TW? What do you think about that?
Well, sending them the credit, we're only going to get a percentage back, just a small. No, I don't want you. No, I don't want nobody to send me to court, because what will that do? The time that you sent them to court, they could have been working. So that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
They're already hurting. Why you gonna bury them with it?
Yeah, it seems to me if you don't have the $15,000, you can go to jail, but I mean, you still ain't gonna get your money.
Exactly.
If you don't have it, you don't have it. Remember that Eddie Murphy stand-up thing where he said nothing from nothing is nothing?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, we won't go there.
Yeah,
there's some other things in that show too, right?
That might have been the clean version.
Yeah.
Maybe we need him.
No.
Leaves nothing. You gotta have something.
Yes, we gotta have something.
Nice. So I'm sorry to pause on that one, but that one just kind of got me even as far as managed care concerns. Practitioners are limited access to insurance panels. This presents a major control issue that is limiting to the ethical standard as social works we hold. The right to self-determination. Craig, I take ethics seriously in my work. I'm regulated and managed by a board of credentialing, certification credentialing boards, and we have a code of ethics that we follow, which says you have a right to self-determination. If you want to work with a particular clinician, I'm going to refer you to that clinician and help you do that. If you don't want to work with me, I'm not going to take that personally. I'll make sure you get your right to self-determination. Well, you know, when insurance panels come in and say, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and credential DW, and I'm not going to credential Craig Graves because I don't like Craig Graves, or I have too many clinicians in this area and I don't want to deal with that many clinicians, so sorry, Craig, you're out. DW, you're in. Well, now if I'm a client and I want to go see Craig, I'm screwed. And paneling is a huge issue in insurance companies from a provider standpoint. It's a horrible thing.
What is paneling?
Being credentialed, being impaneled means you have an ability to get in a contract with an insurance company that I can use their rates, and their people that are their members can come and see me.
And credentialed.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's the same. It's all sort of synonymous. If I'm not impaneled with that insurance company, or I'm not credentialed with that insurance company, and you have that insurance company and you're a member and you expect to use your benefits, you can't come see me. I just have to do a fee for service for you. And a lot of people aren't able to get on these panels, particularly in mental health. You know, they get denied. You fight years to be able to, you know, to get on these insurance panels. And by the way, do managed care because I believe people want to use their insurance, and a lot of people just bail out of this. Psychiatry, for instance, especially, they just don't take insurance anymore. I mean, they just say, no, you know what? We'll just develop a rate, do that rate, and that's what it is. And that's fine. I don't begrudge anybody who's doing that. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I kind of in part, I really kind of deal with it because I just believe in that. I want people to be able to use their benefits and get services, and when they don't find people impaneled with insurance companies, they can go use it. They get very frustrated and they don't go, and that's ultimately not good in my mind.
Yeah, and you should be able to access services. I mean, you're paying all this money for insurance. You ought to be able to use it, and it ought to be simple.
Yeah. Well, right now you have a hard time.
It shouldn't be so complicated.
Oh, say the word, man.
Complicated.
Not that one.
No.
I paused from using profanity, but yeah, it shouldn't be so damn complicated.
And honestly, when you go to see a psychiatrist, you're going to find that complication a lot.
Right, you are.
Do you hear that on the phone and with people?
Yes, they're looking for a psychiatrist, and they're wanting to know, will they take my, and they'll ask me, will they take my insurance? And I'm like, I don't know.
That's part of the reason why they can't find one, and they're calling us.
This is true.
So how does the whole thing work as far as with mental health and with psychotherapy and with your practice specifically? Because we talked about the what's it called, where you get the help finding a mental health person. We talked about
the directory where
you can access mental health services through your company.
Oh, the EAP.
Yeah, employee assistance
that only
program.
covers a certain number of sessions, right?
Certain number of sessions and only very specific clinicians.
Interesting. So I can come a few times and then I'm on my own.
Correct.
Okay.
And hopefully you have insurance or not.
Right. So okay. So I don't know, man. With the whole thing, do you think that like a more holistic approach to health would make insurance companies more likely to cover mental health services?
You know what? No, is the answer to your question. And the only reason why we've made tremendous gains in that, DW, I don't know what administration it was. Was it the Obama administration or was it the Clinton? I forget. We got past the Parity Act. You know what the Parity Act is?
No.
The Parity Act is something that was added to our healthcare industry to where if you are going to offer health benefits, you have to offer mental health benefits. Now, before that, and that's in my time, and I make age jokes and old jokes, but I ain't that old.
So is that still in play?
Yes.
Yes.
Prior to that, no, is the answer to your question.
So if I have health insurance, I've got mental health insurance.
Now.
Okay.
When was that? Do you remember?
Okay, so
That's been a time at Metrolina.
That's been since I've worked at Metrolina.
Yeah, last 10 years.
Right, within the last 10 years.
That's just like yesterday, Craig, as far as insurance goes, man. Before that, there was oftentimes people who come out of our office with managed care and they didn't have coverage, and we'd have to call and have that conversation with them after a session or two or three and say, hey, guess what? We didn't get it back in time because of the explanation of benefits didn't come, but your policy doesn't even cover mental health. And you know what? Today, chiropractors a lot of times are managing that. Preventative care like that ain't on your insurance policy. You want to go to a chiropractor, you may or may not have coverage for that.
Yeah, I think mine does cover the chiropractor, and I've got the FSA, HSA deal, and it covers like massage, and I can use that for chiropractic too. So, I mean, there is some things like that there. But I guess where I was going with that is, I think that we look at mental health and physical health and diet and those kind of things in silos. And
right.
So if I'm having mental health issues, that could show up in the physical,
Correct.
That could show up in my physical health. So it seems like that mental health to me, and we've said this before, is probably more important in a lot of ways than your physical health, because deterioration in mental health can lead to physical health issues.
This is correct.
So it seems like to me that insurance companies ought to be more willing to work, or at least as willing to work with mental health professionals as they are medical professionals.
You might remember the conversation with Mr. Denny Morrison. Dr. Denny Morrison was on our show talking about this, and that's part of what he really kind of said. The whole paradigm is backwards.
Right.
And I see that. I was kind of jumping out of my seat when he was going there, because that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Preventative care is not, our system is not designed to keep us healthy.
No, it's definitely not. Definitely
and that's
not.
a problem.
And I think our medical doctors, God bless them, and I think they all have good intentions, but they're just not trained in things like that.
No.
Because
it doesn't pay.
We had a conversation before they turned the mics on with DW about her health and what she eats. And you were having some coughing and allergy kind of related issues, and then you went to a holistic practitioner who's not a doctor who changed your diet, and now you've been good for 2 years, right?
That is correct.
So right there, and we've also kind of mentioned how diet may affect mental health on the show. I don't know if you heard the keto episode, DW, but we had a lady on the show who said that she'd suffered with depression her whole life, and she kind of stumbled into keto by accident and realized that her depression symptoms were gone when she was eating ketogenic diet.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot there, man, and it's just not. I don't think that the medical profession looks at these things in an integrated fashion.
This is true.
And again, because it doesn't pay, we have as Denny. Well, you know what? But just because of time, I'm going to refer you back to that episode on exercise. I thought that was a little nice skip on that episode where he much more eloquently than I can say here explained that, how the paradigm shift is around the world. To go real quick, just to give you more complicated stuff about managed care, claims are denied oftentimes because we're not cross a T or dotting an I. DW, you know all about that.
Yes.
The wrong box is checked or something, and we have to go back and kind of manage that. Misleading products where insurance companies are giving you really, really cheap costs, it looks like, and then you have like literally one or two providers in the entire city that you can see. It's something that people have to look out for and understand what's your product when you're getting this insurance. What does it really mean? Who can I see? These are questions that are, I would almost arguably say, purposefully hidden from the insurance members' understanding. And I hate saying that, but I've seen that. Often changing staff just on insurance companies. Craig, I've done managed care stuff for many years now, way over double digits, and I only know two people that have been consistent in the two companies, and I'll remain them unnamed. But all the other contacts and companies, phone numbers change all the time, names change of people, my contact points are, like, I don't have any idea who's on the other end of the phone, massively the majority of the time, and it's frustrating because they're not giving me answers that I need to do service. I'm going to end because I want to reserve minutes left that we have for kind of my thoughts on all this, and really laying out my thought on as a clinician on where we need to go and how we need to manage this. Before I do, what are you thinking? I mean, does this sound overwhelming and frustrating? And I mean, just let me take a survey with you guys, right? What are you feeling like with this conversation?
I'm thinking
Therapist asked the question, how do you feel, right?
Well, I think you need to be acutely aware of what you're doing because financially, that's one of those boxes that need to be checked. You need to have adequate health care so you can stay healthy and function and live longer. And when when you're dealing with managed care, it's like you're being manipulated to what they want you to fall in whatever box, and not being able to have a provider that you want or keep a provider that you've been seeing for years, and then you change insurance and maybe they're not in that panel. That's a scary thing. I experienced that almost myself by me ending up having to pay for my health care, which we never had to do any before. Usually I have an employer that helps with that, but I ended up having to pay for my own. And the scary part was how many of my providers that I see that are on your panel, on this insurance panel, and if they're not, we have to pick another insurance.
Craig, before I ask kind of what you're feeling like with this conversation, just I want definitely a point out of annoying aspects of managed care. DW, you recently, I think yesterday, we had a conversation of like, wow, good job, attaboy, you've done an excellent job getting this simple address change done, right?
Right.
So literally, our audience knows we just changed our address for some unforeseen reasons, but we did. And so we got to change that with the insurance company. Did you find that easy or difficult? And is it even done?
It is. I found it easy once I talked to somebody so that I wouldn't make the mistake of not getting it right the first time, because that was valuable.
Her response shocks me, Craig, to be honest with you. It has gotten a little better with some online stuff, for sure. But for years now, man, I had to figure out an address. I had to write a letter. I had to put it signed and get it to the right office and the right address so I can simply change the address. You'd think it'd be a phone call and a button click. No.
It should be.
It's
Oh,
not.
no, you can't do
Way
that.
far from that. So let me actually,
Yeah.
DW, before you say it was easy, honestly, Craig, how long do you think it would take to change your address with insurance companies? Well, of course, I guess you know when we moved and everything, so you're going to be able to do the quick calculation and stuff. But I mean, you'd think it'd be simple, right?
Yeah, you think it would be.
How long we been there now? I mean, what is it, 4 months in?
3
Yeah.
months.
Yeah, October.
And I'm going to look you in the eyes and tell you, I don't know if we know we've got them all changed yet, do we?
No, I can't. Okay, so like if you have one insurance company, there's several of them where the claims go or come from. So I have to track down where each one come from. It might be company A that's been here for years, but let's say the checks are coming from different parts of the world or whatever parts of the country. I have to make sure that they follow through with the address. And even though it's on the billing, they're not going to change it just because it's on the billing.
Just change our address. I mean, you think about that, what providers are managing. I mean, literally, well, that's why when you open up an office, like, we pay so much money. And I love you, DW, but I'd love to have no staff that make it so simple. Just see people, you know? I mean, you'll have offices with 5 people that are just staffed for this alone. This alone.
So you're saying DW's a superhero, right?
I'm telling you, man, she does a rocking job.
DW's 5-1, man. 5-1.
She does a rocking job, man.
I bet if she opened up that jacket she's got on, there'd be a Superman on her chest.
She's a woman. That's Superwoman, brother.
Oh, I want to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, it is hard. I have to make sure that when I pick, whichever one I pick, that I narrow it down to when I do this address change, am I including every insurance company that you have?
Those are just some annoying things, and that was a quick. I didn't even get to everything on my list, but that's fine. I don't want to sound too snarky. I don't want to get too worked up. I don't want to get too upset, so I'm going to stop it right here, Craig.
Well, let me ask you guys what you think, because you're dealing with this on a daily basis.
Well, before you go, I really want to spend some time on where we need to go from here and what do we need to make this system work better. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going.
Yeah, okay,
so, you hear a lot of talk in the politics, especially these days, about, especially on the Democratic side, just having Medicare for all and abolishing private insurance and stuff like that. What do you guys think about that? Is that the answer?
No. But I'll answer that. You'll see on the notes, man, all bold. What's the big word on there? On second page, Roman numeral 2, letter A. We need all bold letters.
I must have the wrong thing. Oh, regulation.
Regulations, man. I mean, I've thought a lot about this, Craig. The Medicare for All does make me nervous. I mean, I'm like anybody else. I don't know that I want the government to control all of my revenue stream. I mean, this is my livelihood. I don't make that much money. I don't, and it does give me concern. That the government would overtake that, and an address change might be easier. Okay.
I wouldn't be so sure,
Well, it's one payer source. One payer source. And
still, I wouldn't be so sure.
That still might be 10 phone calls and a few letters, maybe an act of Congress. But there would be some things that would seriously be better. I mean, honestly, the way Denny was talking about it, Craig, I mean, I think that popped your ears when he was talking about that. We would be more organized around keeping people healthy because we're all paying into the system, and that would be, honestly, a great advocate of the Medicare for All. It is not all bad. It is not all bad, contrary to what people talk about.
That's right. I think Denny did mention that it would be a more wellness kind of
because
scenario.
The system would be set up to where if we keep you well, and then it's not going to cost us, me, essentially. The doctor's sitting there saying, I'm a taxpayer. If we can keep you well and not have you come back, I'm still paid the same, and you're better.
Yeah, right.
You're better.
Right.
So really, it really isn't all bad. But I personally don't want to go there. What I want to see, to answer your question, is the regulation of greedy insurance companies, to which they're turning mass profits at our expense. I mean, they are making bank, man. Furthermore, that I really believe that medical groups, who continue to engage in predatory practices, of patients, like we said in Virginia, that they require regulation as well. As a bottom line, psychologically, when people are big and people start making a penny They want 10 more, and it's fundamental greed.
Yeah, definitely is.
Greed.
You guys seen the Wall Street movie Part 2? You know Wall Street with Michael Douglas?
Yes.
Well, there's a second Wall Street.
I didn't know that.
There's a sequel. Yeah, there's a sequel. And what's the guy's name? The young guy, LeShoe, the actor.
Oh, wow.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, he marries his daughter.
Yeah, he marries Gordon Gekko's daughter in the movie, right?
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Right. So he's in there, he talking to the big hedge fund manager, or I'm not sure what the guy was, but he's a big finance guy, one of these mega rich dudes. And he asked him, he says, what's your number? You know, what would just make you walk away from it all? What's your number? And the guy says, more. You know?
More. A is regulation. B, I really believe that insurance companies do not need to be traded on stock exchanges, period. How's that for a statement? I believe that making them all non-for-profit companies, right? They'll still be able to make a lot of money and manage our healthcare and do their thing, but when you're in that system, you are trying to make money off of things in a greedy way and sometimes prone to being inappropriate, trying to please shareholders and improve your stock instead of improving health of people.
I agree with you 100%. I think
makes
you and I
sense.
differ on some other things, but that's something I strongly feel too. I mean, once you have a medical system that's for profit, then you don't want people to be well because you make money on sick people.
Period.
Absolutely.
Non-for-profit needs to be a regulation for insurance companies, I believe. You know? I did say Medicare for all makes me nervous when I was brainstorming this. D or fourth, HSA, you know, like we described, you know, the flex spending accounts and the health savings accounts. I like them in general. I think that's kind of cool. But honestly, it feels like a shell game. You know, instead of just paying this premium, getting this insurance policy and having this structure, we're going to give you money, but then we're going to take money away from the program. We're going to increase this here, but really less. So you pay more and you get a little bit and you end up paying, you know, it's a shell game. It just moves stuff around in a complicated way to further confuse people. I do often wonder about the Christian-based insurance premium groups, and I'm not sure if that's just a Christian insurance program. I don't know if there's other like-minded things out there.
Dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Tell the audience what that is.
Real briefly, it's essentially kind of like a really big co-op, right? I actually had a client who was describing this to me in detail recently, and I learned a lot about it from that conversation alone. No, it wasn't a client. It was my good accountant buddy. I don't know if he listens to the show though. How did he put it? I think I'm just going to be brief, Craig, and kind of say it's like a co-op where 550,000 people are in this, and you pay them at a certain amount, and then you pay full price at your doctor's office. And interestingly enough, you know, when you get a $150 service charge and you say you're paying per cash, it goes immediately down to like 96. That's legitimately about what our numbers are in our office. So when you pay cash, the price gets dramatically reduced.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know?
cash is king, dog.
Hey, you know, so you're giving cash, and then you go to your Christian co-op insurance kind of group, and they give you that money back,
Well, that's neat.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just straight up that way.
Yeah.
You know, even so far as when you have catastrophic events, because they don't have that many in that 550,000 group. He told of his friend of his that actually had like, I think it was a cancer event or something. Coverage paid for it. Because that co-op is organized in such a way where the money's there. And probably because it's not exactly for profit. So, I don't know. It's just those plans are interesting to me. And also, lastly, my mode of thinking here is that, you know, the newer models of having a premium paid to an office where you essentially buy a membership. You ever hear of these?
I have not heard of those.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that, DW?
Oh, well, you have one doctor and he says that your fee is $200 for a time period, but you pay into it. It's like a monthly payment. And when you go to him, he takes care of you. It's like a membership, like a gym membership. You think of it like.
Oh, yeah.
And when you need to go to the doctor, you paying in your gym membership all along, then he sees you and takes care of you. Go get your script. You're done.
Go get your, medicine there at the office. Sometimes they'll have pharmacies kind of attached to them. You got some questions about this thing on your nose. He's going to say what he thinks about it and treat you and care for you there. And he'll refer you for more involved stuff. And then you're on your own. But I think this membership model is pretty neat.
Yeah, how does that work for big things, though?
Exactly, that's what I just said.
If I'm going to my doctor and getting, a checkup, that's different than being in a car accident and
that's what I just said. If you get a spot on your nose and he looks at it and says, "Oh, that might be malignant. I'm really concerned about that," he'll send you to somebody. So you don't get in this membership kind of model, all of the big deals.
I see. So if you're doing a membership model, how do you? Is it a money save? Do you maintain? Because you have to maintain some level of.
You probably get a catastrophic
in case you
coverage.
Have tragedy.
Right. Catastrophic coverage with a cheap policy, and then you get your membership and go do that.
Yeah, when DW and I were talking about these holistic practitioners, that there's a couple of them, and she knows one, and I know her and several others. And, they're like, don't come to us if you're in a car accident.
Yeah.
You need to go to the hospital.
You go to the ER. You go to a department.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Boy, we didn't get to spend enough time on this idea. I really would like a little bit more feedback and thought from our discussion. We'll have to bring this up again and go deep, maybe just on this part of it. What we think needs to happen moving forward. Because but you got plenty of dialogue in the election kind of talk. You got plenty of people out there kind of concerned. I hope that one of the things we've accomplished here is informing people a little bit so that when you have these discussions, honestly, you can be more informed. Because, Craig, I think a lot of people are talking about such a complicated thing as healthcare industry in our country is, and they're only half-armed with information. I don't think they understand half this stuff. I really don't. I mean, I'm not calling people stupid out there, but I'm saying this is complicated.
Well, I think a lot of folks, for me anyway, I speak my own experience. If something's really complicated, I don't want to figure it out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't want to dig through my insurance policy, man. I'd rather play in a fire ant nest or something, That just sounds like torture to me.
Till you got to go to the doctor. And until you start getting these bills rolling.
I'm just going to come see DW and let her tell me what's going on.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Well, that part back on the back of that card where it says call for eligibility of benefits or verify the benefits on the back of the card, you can call them. And say, I'm a member, here's my ID number, and I want to know 4 things that are really important. What is my copay? What is my deductible? Do I have to get authorization? And go from there.
So those are the 4 things, right?
Oh, and is there a visit limit?
Call that number and ask those 4 questions.
And actually, is there a visit limit very often anymore?
That's kind of gone away.
So say those 3 things again. Call the number on the back of your card, member benefits.
Where it says benefit eligibility, and ask them, what's my copay? But
number 1, what's my copay?
What's my copay? Do I have a deductible? What is my max out of pocket? And do I need an authorization?
Okay, that's gold right there, folks.
It really is, Craig, because a lot of people, honestly, they don't know anything about it.
I'm going to call.
Sorry?
Oh, yeah, heck yeah. I have to mark it explicit now.
Well, I think I did pretty good. DW, did I maintain my cool?
You maintained your cool.
Because some of this, I ain't lying, guys. It is frustrating to the point that clinicians will say, to heck with it. I don't want to deal with it. And I've just kind of been one of the holdouts and saying, I want people to be able to use their benefits because I think it's important. Craig, how do we take us out of here, man?
Through atherapisteyes.com, dude. That's where we have entries for every single show. You can stream right off the website, or you can go to your favorite podcast platform. We'd appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a good 5-star review. That will help us get found so we can get the word out about issues like this one that we're talking about now. You can also find links to our Facebook and Instagram on the website. There's a newsletter sign up out there too. You want to jump on there. And tell your friends, man. Tell your friends. Word of mouth is the best way to get the word out, best form of advertising. And you can help us tremendously just by telling one person. If everybody listening told one person, it would double our numbers in a month.
And I'll tell you where we go up next, but to highlight that, man, yeah, this is the year we want to grow our show, guys. Please, really, get one person. We want the audience to take a little bit of an ownership. We want to grow. We want to get this word out to people. And if you like the content, just tell one person and text them the show, and let's get this thing going. Craig, we're going to talk about what a nervous breakdown is, I believe, next, right?
A nervous breakdown.
DW, may join us if I can convince her to hang out with us for a little bit longer. If not,
shaking her head.
Yeah, I know. She got to go.
She's had enough of Gazdick for one day.
See y'all next week.